A is for Adam, Part 8, and hopefully the last one. Chapter 16, Eve's Restless Night. And so time went on. The pipe dream that Eve had about Cain calming down and acting like a decent person once he had a brother was far-fetched. In fact, Cain became much worse. The special needs that Abel required demanded much of Adam and Eve's attention. Plus, let's face it, they loved him more. So Cain was more than a little jealous. Although Cain hated Abel with every ounce of his being, having his brother around encouraged his creativity, as he continually invented new ways to torture him. He had enjoyed the time he tortured him by covering him with honey to attract fire ants and leaving him out in the desert sun. And the time he had tied him up in the basement, which he himself had to dig just to have a basement to tie him up in, and removing him from his friends and family plan without notice. Cain was a cruel boy. One night Eve awoke, startled from a most horrible dream. Adam, wake up. Adam, I have to tell you about the most horrible dream I had. Blah. Yes, later. But first you must listen while I tell you about my dream. Blah. Oh, all right, Eve said, and performed her oral duties. It wasn't clear to her why she did this, since it in no way gave her any pleasure. Also, it yielded no children. Perhaps this was why Adam liked it so much. Maybe he and Eve were through having kids. She couldn't possibly blame him after watching the Cain and Abel show day in, day out. But what if it did produce a baby? A throat baby? She had never thought of that possibility, and there was good reason. The wisdom of the fruit assured her that this was not biologically possible. So I'm not sure why I just brought that up. Anyway, she finished spitting in the chamber pot. Like usual. She should clean that out some day. As he turned back around, she noticed a spot on his left inner thigh. A patch of dry skin, only a few centimetres across, resembling tree bark. She pulled it off without mercy. Yikes! He shouted. Sorry, she said, and noticed that he was not bleeding. The light that the moon gave off coming through their hut window was enough to show that this fluid oozing out was not the dark red fluid of normal blood. It had no colour at all. It just glistened in the moonlight. Maybe this is more of his man stuff, she thought, and lapped it up. No, it was not man stuff. It had a thicker, more sticky consistency, almost like glue, and had a faintly sweet taste to it. It reminded her of what the trees leaked occasionally. What was that? Asked Eve. What was what? He asked. That patch on your leg resembling tree bark. I don't know, he said. I had the same thing on my shoulder the other day. I've never seen it before, she said, and he gave her a look. What? She asked. You have one too, he said. What, where? He scraped a finger across her back in answer. She sat, petrified. What the? How did it get there? I don't know, he answered. You mean you hadn't noticed it? No, I can't say I have. But don't just lie there. Pull it off. She read worry in his face. What? She asked. I don't think I can. It's taking up your entire back almost. What? She asked. Yeah, it's huge. Where's it coming from? She asked. No idea. Do you think it's an allergic reaction? What do you mean by that? Asked Eve. I don't know. I thought you might know. Anyway, can I tell you about my dream now? Absolutely, dear, Adam said, suddenly fully awake. She still had a couple of minutes before the sleep of Adam took over, so she had to make it quick. I dreamed that Cain was drinking Abel's blood. Okay, he said. What do you think it means? She asked. I think it means that Cain's a lunatic. That's nothing new. Dream explained. Case closed. Anything else I can help you with? I don't know. I'm worried about them, Adam. I think something bad is going to happen. Like what? Cain killing Abel? Let's be honest, honey. Abel isn't the brightest bulb in the garden. If Cain kills him, it's survival of the fittest. Blasphemous Darwinist crap. I'm just saying, is all. Eve started to cry, and Adam put his arm under her and held her. There, he said. Look, if you're that worried about Abel, we'll keep them separated, okay? They can each have their own house far away from each other. That way nothing bad will happen. You promise? She asked. Promise. I'll help build them both new huts tomorrow, first thing. And so Eve, thus relieved of her anxiety, drifted back to sleep, not dreaming any more about her two sons. Instead, she thought about the thing in her back, just before she crossed over, and she dreamed a dream of becoming a giant tree. She woke up, paralysed, thinking she had turned into a tree in her sleep. Gradually, the feeling came back into her limbs, and she could again speak. Adam, she said. Blah, he answered. No, not again. I figured it out. I know what's causing the reactions with our skin. It's the knowledge fruits, don't you see? This didn't happen until we started eating them. This is God's punishment for us. Eve, he sleepily said. God already punished us by banishing us to this awful place. That was it. The tree bark growing off our skins and the twigs poking out from our pores is just a coincidence. Are you sure? Asked Eve. Positive. Now go back to sleep. The next day Adam sat his two boys down on the couch. Ow! Quit it! Abel shouted. Knock it off, Cain, Adam scolded. What is it, Dad? I'm awfully busy, said Cain. Well, I've been doing some thinking. It seems you two boys can't get along. No matter how hard we try to get you to behave, it just keeps getting worse. I think it's time you both got jobs. Groans from both the boys. Oh, but Dad, nothing. Your mother and I can't continue to live this way, listening to you fight all the time. Plus, we really need help around here. The crops are dying and the animals are too. They all need tending to. Two people can only do so much. It's high time you chipped in. What do you want us to do, Dad? Abel asked. Glad you asked, Abel. Since you seem to have a way with animals, I will train you on how to be a shepherd. Cool. I thought you'd like that. As for you, Cain, I want you as far away from Abel as possible. You'll go down to the fields and be a husbandman. Ha ha, Abel laughed. Dad wants you to knock up the livestock. Cain shook his head. That's not a husbandman, you buffoon. A husbandman tills the soil, which sounds like the complete opposite of something I want to do, Dad. Well, that's just a case of too bad, so sad, love, Dad, Adam said. We all have to do things we don't want to do around here. Now, the ground may be horrible, but I think we can grow better produce if we tended the ground a little more. Boring, said Cain. Now, said Adam, ignoring his son's comment, let's get building you guys your own places to live. What? Both boys said at once, for different reasons. Sweet, says Cain. I finally get my own pad. Do I have to move out, Daddy? Abel asked. You're both going miles away to do your jobs. It will not be an easy commute to go back and forth every day, especially since the wheel doesn't exist yet. You must stay at your respective farms and only come back once a week with deliveries. Plus, we can't have you both living under the same roof. You'll kill each other. Cain smirked, as though he had plans to do just that. Sounds like you want us to do all the work, Dad, Cain said. What are you going to do? Never mind what I'm going to do. I have a lot of stuff at home I have to take care of. I have to think of a way to get us back to paradise, which means I have more penance to do. I have to take care of your mother. She wants 60 more children. Although I can't for the life of me even fathom the storm that will bring. She insists that's the only way to save humanity. I've tried arguing that it's probably not worth saving, but she insists. I argued that meant you boys would have to reproduce with your own sisters, and she explained that incest is not a sin, and there would be no complications, as there are no mutant genes yet. I have a feeling she's been eating a lot more forbidden fruit than I have. Anyway, let's get you guys set up. The boys walked in front of their dad. Ha ha, Cain said. You will need to have sex with your own sister. At least I don't have to have sex with farm animals, Abel said. For the last time, that's not what a husbandman does. A couple of weeks went by and Cain killed Abel. I mean, hey, let's face it, we all saw that coming. In fact, Adam was wondering what took him so long. Although he wished it was the other way around, Adam wasn't that overly upset about it. Eve, however, cried every day for the next 9 months, until the next child, Seth, was born, which set off a cavalcade. Soon the children started pouring out of Eve like water out of a faucet. 60 children they had in all. Not possible, you say? Impossible, others who know their prefixes say. Maybe for those with today's lifespans, but when you take into account The fact that they lived for hundreds upon hundreds of years, it was a wonder all they had was 60. They had stopped eating the fruit of knowledge, which not only stopped them from gaining any more intelligence, it also caused them to forget most of the stuff they had already learned. One thing they remembered, which was perhaps the most important thing, was that the fruit was turning them into trees. After years of not touching anything from the trees, they noticed that no more twigs were growing out in random spots on their bodies, and their skin was taking back the normal consistency and glow of human skin rather than bark. "I'm sure it's nice not to have to worry about turning into trees," Adam said. Soon, however, despite their best efforts, the crops began to die, all except one. The knowledge trees were in full bloom all the time. "Well," Adam said, "we may be out of cucumbers and summer squash, but at least we have meat." "Bah!" he heard the sheep scream, running full tilt into the pens. One by one they were dropping dead of massive coronaries. "Hurry," Adam shouted to Eve. "Grab some salt and some dry rub. We have to get these sheep butchered, dehydrated and seasoned before the meat goes bad." Immediately the animal flesh started decaying right in front of their eyes and turned black, setting off a stink the likes of which they had never smelled. It was absolutely horrible and made them rich. Adam turned to Phil Collins. "Sorry, old buddy," he said. "You're the sacrifice for the greater good." Phil shook his head rapidly. "Look at it this way, pal. You'll go down in history as a martyr. That's like the ultimate for a goat, isn't it?" "Give me just one more night," Phil Collins said. "Sorry, Phil, we love you, but you gotta go. Daddy's getting hungry." The goat bolted, never to be seen again. In case you're curious, he lived a very long, happy and healthy life. He found his way back to Eden and moved into a luxury condo, met a lady goat and started a family of his own. Generation after generation of talking goats later would spawn one of the most famous goats ever known, named Biddy. But that's a story for another time. "Well, Eve, looks like it's just you and me and the knowledge tree. What do we do now?" "The only thing we can do," Eve said. "Let's dig in. I'm starving." They both plucked a fruit from the tree. "Let's do this together," Eve said. "On the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And they both took a bite of their fruits at the same time. "You know," Adam said, "this is much better than I remembered." "Yes," said Eve, "much sweeter." They both finished their fruits and soon grabbed another. They ploughed through those, and then on to the next, and the next, and the next. And like salt water only making you thirstier, the fruits made them hungrier. They were also gaining more knowledge, more than their human brains could handle. Some things they had always wanted to know the answer to, and some things they felt were better off not knowing. But they couldn't stop. They kept eating and eating. Their skin gradually turned to bark, and they paused every now and then to flick the random termite off each other. After 2 days of constantly eating, they had consumed every fruit on the tree. "Now what?" asked Eve. "I'm still hungry." "Me too, Daddy," said Luluwa. "The kids, he's forgotten about the kids. After days of no food, they must have been starving." "Oh, sweetie, you must be so hungry." "Yes, we'll eat each other if we can't find something soon." As if those words were a trigger, fruits once again sprang forth from the trees. "Quickly," said Adam, "go forth and gather up your brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and nieces and nephews. Tell them there's plenty of fruit to eat. We shall all become trees together." "We shall become what, Daddy?" asked Luluwa. "Oh, nothing. Hurry now before your mother and I finish all the fruit on the trees." A few hours later all children gathered round and sat noshing on the fruits. Bark grew on Luluwa and all the other children, and their children's children too. Roots grew from their toes and sunk deep into the ground. Adam grabbed Eve's hands. They quickly became frozen together. "Daddy, what's happening?" Aklia asked, which set all the other children to asking their own questions, until their mouths became wooden and could not manage speech. Adam tried to answer them, but alas, his mouth was frozen open too. A large forest stood where the children used to be. The sky opened up and the face of God appeared. "Why, God?" asked Adam in his mind. "You owe me, no, you owe all of us an explanation." "Mysterious ways," God responded. "That will not cut it. I have a feeling this was all a set-up. Why did you do this? Why did you make knowledge fruit the only food available, so we all became trees?" "Curious ways," said God. and if Adam could have given him a stern look, he would have. Okay, you all became knowledge trees, so that future generations may eat from your branches, and they may also gather knowledge, and they too may become trees, so that more generations may do the same. I have been doing this for millennia. Say what? You really think you and Eve were the first ones to inhabit the earth? Ha! There were so many before you. All those knowledge trees. They were also at one time people, just like you. Isn't that right, Eugene? He asked a tree. Ha ha, just kidding. I know you can't speak. I love playing little games like that. Keeps me entertained. I still don't see the point, Adam said, because knowledge is a powerful thing, but even more powerful is wealth. Do you know how much money knowledge tree wood is worth up here? And you wouldn't believe the lovely furniture that can be made from those like yourself. I'll tell you, you should be proud to be a tree. Seems like a lengthy process to make a buck or two. Oh, God chuckled, I've got time. And so, dear reader, if you ever find yourself lost in the forest and happen upon two old, wise-looking trees that look like their branches are entwined, that just may be Adam and Eve holding hands. The end. Don't forget to like and subscribe and press the wee bell notification. And a huge big thank you to all my subscribers and patrons. See you next week. Bye bye.